All right. Hello, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I wish you a happy Friday. It is absolutely so good to be here with you. Thank you for sending me love, Melissa. I appreciate that. And I'm getting on a little bit later today. I won't go into why, but it's just always a privilege and an honor to be here. Let me tell you. Okay, I'm just going to check before I came on. It had me on a different camera and a different microphone, so I'm just checking to make sure you can hear me. It's just always good to do this. Hello, Cheryl. So nice to see you, and Shelly. And oh my God, so good to see everybody. I will have somebody just put in the comments if you can hear me. And then I'll know that I have the microphone on. It looks like it is working. Yes. Okay. Thank you. And I think you can obviously see me. I have the right camera on. Okay. Happy Friday and welcome to our this is part of the Holy Womanhood podcast. It's also part of the Goddess Report today. We are going to be looking at such a rich and powerful time of year, and we are going to be looking at what's happening on the planet right now. So let me just start by saying, well, first I'll say this is Shannon Port if you're new, and I'm the founder of the Art of the Feminine platform, which can be found at artofthefeminine.com or on Art of the Feminine Facebook, Instagram. And I'm a teacher of the feminine mysteries and the divine feminine wisdom, which is probably the most important knowledge and truth that anybody can access at this time. And today, we are going to talk about why that is. In these times that we are in right now, since I was last live on September 7th on the total lunar eclipse in Pisces, the full moon total lunar eclipse, thank you for letting me know. It's nice to see you. We are in a completely new timeline. The eclipse season and what happened on this planet in the month of September is probably, I experienced it as the greatest amount of shift to happen so far in these times on our planet Earth. It's one of the reasons I had said that I would be back. Um, I said I'd be back on October 3rd, but I have to tell you, for any of you doing spiritual work, you're aware that what's happening in our world right now. Oh, it's so good to see you, Kath. Thank you for saying hello. I bow to you and your little guy. What is happening in our world right now we are just on the precipice of a completely new planet Earth spiritually, but we're going to have to go through some very turbulent times before we get there. The momentum of the fallen Mars force and the return of the Atlantean-Roman Empire has picked up, and it is going forward at full speed ahead. Now, what we are going to do today, I had today when I was in the shower, I couldn't some I always get so many downloads, but I had some notes that I wrote onto my phone, and I'm going to look at the notes because even though they are about everything we always talk about, they came in with a really specific um, encodement. When they came in, even though a few words here, a few words there, it was hitting my body in a way that was so potent. So I wrote them down in text. I ran out of the shower like 5 times. And I'm going to look at those. I haven't looked back at them and just refer to them because there's strong messages coming in right now. Before I go any further, I'll just let you know for all of those of you who are joining but can't stay long, we're in the season of goddess ritual, holy descent. I named the video that, but my most powerful course that I teach starts on November 7th. We ran it for the first time last year. We always do Holy Descent, but this is big. If you have not studied, I'm going to talk about it at the end, but I'll just say really quick, if you haven't studied here before and you want to immerse yourself truly in the frequency that is holds the vision going forward, this is the best place to start. The link is underneath in the description, but it corresponds to what we will be talking about today. This momentum that is on our planet is ruthless. and it has a vision, but that vision is an old vision. It's an old vision of the dominant masculine that does not want to bring the holy feminine along with it in partnership. This is very important to understand. This is why this work is everything right now. The arrogance that's behind it, and even when it's speaking of things that feel like maybe they're okay, calling out some real issues, we have a lot of cleanup to do to get to where we need to be moving into this next stage, headed towards the age of Aquarius, for sure. But it's really important that the holy feminine is in partnership. And that is not the case right now. So let me just see if there's anything else I should say before I look at these notes. And then I have a whole bunch. I have some files. I'll talk more about what I'm teaching at the end. Okay. This came in first. I'm just going to say I wrote materialism in love. We talk about this, and I wrote about this on my Instagram page at Art of the Feminine about at the Libra new moon. And I'm just being shown, I need to jump back and talk about September, just one moment. We had 2 new moons in Virgo. I'm going to jump back just one second. And what's coming in right now is that we have to heal love in this world. We have to relearn and reset relationships. It is absolutely on the platform moving forward. The feminine mysteries is the deep, deep holy grail of Eve's heart. Without love being regenerated, without very specific things that we work on here being regenerated, we're just on the wheel repeating. Right now, we're repeating a past cycle. Both Atlantis, I should say Atlantis, periods of ancient Egypt, which we will talk about. We're going to talk a lot. We talk a lot about paganism here, but we're going to look at paganism in ancient Egypt and in Rome. And these cycles are it's really interesting what's happening here because there's a clash between what appears to be kind of a pagan system and a more of a sort of conservative patriarchal religious system, but really they're working together, and we'll talk about why, because they haven't been regenerated. We're going to look at the big glitch that was happening in ancient Egypt that then was transmitted into Rome, and the whole Western culture is based on Rome and Greece, and we have not healed that yet. This is why the feminine mysteries are the only key to our future. Without that piece, which is really the whole when you really understand it, because it governs creation. The mother is the door to creation, and she's the key to the new world. She's both the door and the key. She holds within her the it's a potency in the heart. We refer to it often as the divine feminine frequency, but we'll talk about what that means. So, okay, I'm going to go back and look at, so that's why love is so important, but let's go back and look at September and talk a little bit about the timeline. Okay, so in September, we met on September 7th. We met on the total lunar eclipse in Pisces, and it was a big one. A couple days after that, there was a political assassination in the US, and it was a right-wing luminary. So it was someone who is really, really prominent voice. This has to do with the whole global change, and so that's why I'm talking about it. This was a younger person who was really, really carrying a massive amount of energy moving forward, and really, and I'm not sure if I will talk about it specifically, but what I want to say is that we here, I'm not going to analyze this politically. We take a step back and we look at it from the view of the divine feminine always. In that way, there are good players all over the chessboard, all over. And so we like to be objective and check out exactly what this means. This particular person, who I was very familiar with, had been aware for years because I keep my eye on things, was a huge voice for the youth, and was also a person that, although I had definite criticisms of their views, because they were trying to break free from sort of the Roman Empire, and they were starting to. What that means is that this person had the potential for light in the world, because they, even though it was more of a, let's say, because it's right, it was a little more of what would be called like a Christian sort of nationalism. There was still a true desire to serve and do what is good. And there was morals and values, even though they were shaped and informed by a specific set of dogma and rules. This person being removed had a huge influence because they were so famous and powerful all over the world, meaning that voice resonated. What that means is that, let's just take a moment. It changed the playing field on planet Earth because, first of all, it was in between the two eclipses. It was at equinox, the fall equinox, and also the Jewish holidays. So we had all that energy right there, right at that time. September is always a big month as we switch into fall for things happening on the planet, if you look back at the history. But what it did was it gave momentum to this Atlantean-Roman Empire. I'm not gonna speculate or go into what exactly I think happened, but this person was removed because of their ability to, um, shift midstream and reassess things. That's not welcome in certain, by the energies behind the front men. The energies behind it don't allow you to stray from the agenda. And so if you that's what's wrong in our world today. If you're a creative thinker, if you're really truly aligned with what you think is the divine, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, whatever it is, Taoism, whatever it is, there is a certain quality in your heart, and it's rare to see. All these people who claim to be, especially the right wing right now, really holds the banner of we're about Jesus and we're about this. It's rare to see somebody who's holding the potential to really embody what the Christ taught. Oh, it's so easy to use those teachings. Oh, I know them well. And I know now why my whole upbringing was to study them and be in that stream and really get it, because I can hear the nuances and I know where it veers way off. But this is what's coming in with the Roman Empire is a combination of religion and state. Again, we have to step back because there's nothing wrong. We are not, our stream obviously is not about secularism. I have the next video I have is on feminine secularism and what it has done to the divine feminine. We talk about this all the time, and it's the one that was supposed to come on October 3rd, and it's coming. So this is not about pulling away from the belief in the divine and being guided, but it's about understanding the mistakes of the past and reconciling them. And that can only be done with the feminine mysteries and the divine feminine, because it was always that was removed and is happening right now. This does not mean that women, this does not mean that feminism or all the goddessy movements around the world hold this truth. A lot of that is stuck in materialism on the highest level, or just completely has cut off the vitality and the fertility of Eve. If you disconnect from your spiritual force as a woman, you're serving the land of Caesar. You are serving the Roman Empire without even realizing it. That is what our work has been from since the time of, well, I've been teaching for a very long time, but if for those of you who were with me during the Art of the Feminine podcast, that we stated that loud and clear over and over. The remembering of the female spirituality, the real frequency. Let's just take a moment with that. It's so deep. It's not influencery, meaning it's not a YouTube star. It's not, speaking words that you feel are going to entice people with a sort of shallow spirituality. It's a real living power. And when you're in the field, and I hope to say that when people come in and study with me, that's all you're in. When we open a session, we go in. I try to bring that in here. The stream contains that, but when you really study, it is not the same as consuming content. You're coming into a space that becomes anointed and where you get to feel what it means to carry this frequency. It's very real and it's alive and it starts to permeate your cells and it starts to activate your words and your vision and heal you and guide you. So, this is why it is so important to have this. The forces moving forward want none of that. None of that. No consciousness. Now, I hesitate to get into politics because um politics gets so mean and I get turned off to be honest. Sometimes a lot of times I see women in politics, especially on the left, and it's kind of I really feel like they could do better. I feel like they can't see themselves. I feel like they need to look in the mirror and work on it. Bring in the wisdom. The noise gets really annoying after a while, and that's why that some of the voices that lean in that direction have been, they've been disarmed. They're not as potent as they were at one time, but even so, it's going through a regeneration. It's not meant to have the old 50s and 60s current of feminism. So let's just look at now going back to what happened in September. What happened is the I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to feed anything. We're looking at it from a spiritual place. What happened was the whole thing was hijacked and now is under the complete control. And so the momentum has just exploded and it's really I have to be careful commenting about this because I watched the whole situation. I have in my own friend group, I have a huge family. I have people on both sides of the political spectrum. And so I got a call immediately and was immediately within a minute seeing and watching what took place and with the removal of this person. And I just got I felt the whole thing immediately, what was coming, and it has played out, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't come out back on October 3rd because it was still really palpable. What is happening right now? I rarely say this, but when I go into certain platforms, I can feel the descent of an evil spirit. It's both subtle, like the serpent, and it is, deceptive, but it's almost, it can make you feel ill. It feels like, and look in the eyes of people when they're talking and just sometimes you can see there's a force working behind the words and the fervor. And things often these kinds of movements often start out with people who have good intentions, but when that momentum picks up, many people that you would never even expect begin to join in. The group consciousness becomes so thick and so it's like a sedative, it just puts you into this trance. That force is moving in, and that's why things are changing. So, okay, let me see if there's anything to close out on that. It's involved with tech. The techno feminine that we talk about is huge, and that's why not having the holy feminine and we're available for that. We are available for that when and if the time comes. I know I have contract to work with certain things. There will be partnerships. It depends on how things go in the near term, but we're on the precipice. It's ready to tip. Um, the interesting thing I saw, let me just take a couple things that are happening. The city states that are being built. So these tech city states are popping up, or the blueprint for them, they're beginning to be built as sovereign states, meaning they're built within nations, but they're sovereign, and it's like a connected web around the planet. This is the beginning of this new, the technocracy, and they will be reserved for the elite at first, and then there will be, it depends on which side takes hold. This is how it is. This is what I saw. I watched a conference at World Economic Forum maybe 2 years ago. There's these two factions, both connected to this overall new order. One is more left leaning and one is more right. And so one wants kind of a global welfare, everyone taken care of, just sedate the people, give them what they want, give them lots of entertainment, and slowly squeeze them out, but prevent an uprising, prevent like a French Revolution or an American Revolution, keep them satisfied and dumbed down, but give everyone enough. And then there's a there's this over hyper concentration on the identity politics and all of that. Um, that was more of the left, and they're vying for power, and even with the tech. And then there's the right, which is more of a, um, they always use the word meritocracy, but what that means is that you follow a religion and you don't break the rules, and then you're good enough to have merit. So the meritocracy, it's based on, um, being, excellent and superior and achieving, but there's also this merging for the masses into an old school, very dogmatic religious system. This is the problem with not understanding the feminine Christ, the Magdalene, and the feminine mysteries. When there's misrepresentation of what that whole stream was, and it was kind of meant to be that way for the masses to digest at that time, but there is a complete misunderstanding of the partnership between male and female, between right and left, between the mind and the heart, and this massive focus on materialism on the right. The massive charge to money and power and corporations and, um, even I've called Christian materialism. It's all commodified now and turned into a brand. Obviously, when you're out talking, you have to be able to speak about things, and you can be known for it, but this is a little different. There's the lust frequency, as in, like, the lust frequency is rising up and being like, "Ooh, what can I get from this?" So that's happening on the right. Understanding the dark feminine, which is what has been buried, and what holds the rage of our past cycle, what holds the sorrow, the suffering of the women and children and everyone, the sons in war, what holds the understanding of lust frequency and materialism and how it decays the heart of Eve. It breaks down the vital body. Lust is like it's like a rust. It takes what is beautiful and it begins to degenerate it. And so we have to understand these feminine principles of healing that require the understanding of love between the mother and the father, and how that real, genuine love takes us beyond materialism. When you love a person from the time they're young until they're old, you go through the trajectory of the body state, the maiden, the mother, and crone. And you go through this process where you as you age, you begin to see the soul And the love for the soul is so strong that even though the body is changing, that love on the higher plane is becoming an egregore. It already is, but it's beginning to take. That's what when you hear people talking about soulmates, and we won't go into that in sort of the pop culture way. But love, when it goes through that journey and it gets stronger and more real and more pure and more honest with age, is so it's the most powerful force in the world. And it's the force of love that will give birth to the sixth race that all you hear in all the esoteric systems. It's when those people who come together and understand love and fertility, and those people who have been through the initiations are able to transmit that current with some initiation. It's really, really important. Okay. Let me just look in for a moment. Let me give some ways in which I see there's a brutality right now, and there's a force. It's everywhere. I don't want to get into specifics. It's happening everywhere. I have criticisms of the whole system. So this is not about saying like, oh, the people in power right now are the pure evil. There's a there's a collusion. It's a collusion. It's not one side or the other. That's why it's really important to stand back, have sovereignty of your voice, of your vision, and start to make the truth more important than anything else. There are a lot of like conspiracies that are locked within the system, and they're speaking truth, but it's still locked into that entertainment system. You understand? The truth movements, the alternative media became part of the entertainment system. So they're just in the recycle the algorithms, the conspiracies, some of which are real, but it's not transmuting it and rising into a stream that has been verified and that can now speak with the heart intact, with knowledge, with a capital K, with wisdom, with humility, very important, and with the understanding of where we're going and what we need to correct and what is just pure um gluttony and greed. And it's interesting, a lot of the people who claim to be about this religious system, first of all, don't even hold 5% of what they think it is. It's sad, but it's true. And also are carrying the codes of the underworld in the land of Caesar. It's not that we're not meant to have abundance and wealth and a strong kingdom. We're meant to have strong defenses. We're meant to have strong constitutions and strong people. And let's just see where we go from there. Okay, I'm gonna look down and, all right. Kathy, I second the last comment. Okay, we are blessed with your thank you. It's so nice to see you. Okay, let me look at the next thing on my list. So is there anything to close out with September? Well, everything was changed. And you can feel it. I hadn't thought, I knew it was gonna be someone, but boy, it was a shock to see who left. Okay. All right. The true attack on Eve is through her heart. I see so many women who I know in politics and on Instagram that are fighting hard for politics, but their heart, they're holding the wound of Eve in when it comes to love. I want to say this again. This is not judgment. This is not to shame any of us that carry that wound. Sometimes when we've been hurt so bad in one area, we just decide to let it go and focus our pain and our rage in another area. At times that can work. Like, okay, love isn't working out. The system for love, the dating apps, all of it. It's right now, we're going to be talking a lot about this. I know this well, is so has drenched Eve's heart in so much pain that it's like, okay, I'm going to get out and fight. I'm going to get out and feel heard and seen in this area, but we still have to address that wound. And that's what Holy Descent, it's huge. It's like you can't go forward and do good in politics in this day and age. You have to carry the frequency. Only when you have it, then your own stuff has been good. It doesn't mean you can't fight before that. I don't mean that, but if you're just like in that vortex and you can't see it, give some time to your spiritual life. Step away from secular feminism and find your truth. It's scary because when you see the truth, you'll realize that the Eve has been betrayed by both sides. There isn't she has. That's just the way it is. It's not to judge and attack, but Eve has to find it within herself. I say Eve when I mean the collective woman. Okay, the attempt to bring back, okay, I wrote, this was out of the shower, attempt to bring back the strong, dominant masculine without the holy feminine. Now, I will say this. When somebody claims to stand for someone, we don't judge because we all have our sins of our past and our mistakes we've made. But when there's a pattern that you see over and over, addiction to the less current, the using of the feminine in marriage, and then there's just recycling and going for the next and the next and the next, younger, younger, younger. When you see this everywhere, and then standing behind, but I pray to the one true God and our, have morals and values. We in the new world, we'll be seeing people who are initiates. Let's talk about the difference. Now, sometimes people come in. Oh, I want to talk about what I heard about about the president right now, Trump. I mean, we'll look at that in just a moment. There are people who come in that aren't fully, spiritual yet, but are still serving the advancement, and that happens. It absolutely happens where someone might not look that spiritual, but they're serving the great plan that's happening. That happens. At the same time, to create what's new, there has to be not have duplicity. There's a difference between having some sins in your past and being duplicitous. Carrying out 2 agendas at once, saying you stand for this, but at the very same time doing this. That is you cannot be on the spiritual path when you do that. You do just the energetic vibration of those who initiate and call us in and take our soul into that journey. There's very major energetic portals that we have to go through with each clearing and healing. That's not just given. That isn't a one and done at all. But we're in it now. We're really in our platform, we are in it. We've gone deep. And so the people in charge, if you can be talking about being in church and Jesus in one moment, and then in another moment saying that half the population is evil, that has nothing to do with the Christic vibration or the Christ force. It has nothing. Now, there's been a lot of fight between these two sides. We can call it the communist and the fascist side at their farthest polarity. It goes all the way to communism and all the way to fascism. Both are undesirable. One is afraid. This side, the left is afraid fascism is coming. The right is afraid communism is coming. That we have to step out of that illusion. They're both seated on they're both in our collective consciousness, the whole human race. We could slip at any time into either, but we have to understand that the path of healing and truth is the Christ, meaning that frequency that has been coming over the various cycles and epochs to initiate us as to make humanity evolve, that deep, deep, deep presence in the heart. We have to look to people who really hold that. Otherwise we just say, okay, they're human. We pray a lot and watch what's happening. Okay, the great battle is happening behind the scenes. It's with the masculine and feminine. Now, there's women in positions of power right now that I do have some respect for. They're not in the mysteries though, for sure. The ancient fight with fallen Mars, which inverts Lilith to materialism, lust, war, and permanent rage due to her absolute inversion. Now, Goddess Kabbalah, we work very powerful. In whole goddess ritual, we work with Lilith as part of reclaiming the dark feminine because that energy serves as pure power of the dark womb. And when we reclaim it, we get our vision back. Until then, we're run by that lower force. And a lot of the people in power are run by that lower force. Um, so yes, and this system that we're working with here is the redemption, the resurrection, and the restoration of the fallen goddess. Again, we all carry the goddess within us, men, women, all of us do. She's alive. We're going to talk about paganism. Okay, I'm going to go quick with this to let you know what's coming up is we're going to look at paganism and we're going to look at why it is so important to not I don't really call this work paganism at all, but lately, the past year, I've been actually longer than that, but we've been saying, I keep saying, watch for people demonizing paganism. And remind me to go back to that because we're gonna spend some time talking about that. Okay. Oh, coding with AI. I wrote coding with AI. One line prompt can control an entire platform, and narrative can detect the nuance now with this new form of intuition that we talked about in the last video. We talked about Sophia and the age of Sophia, and we talked about AI. This new AI is really subtle, and it can come in and it can push down those who are carrying, um it knows the nuance of it can almost feel the intention. So a one-line AI prompt can now run a platform. This is immense power. This is what we are up against. I've been up against it for a long time now, so I've got my sea legs on with it, but it can be it's pretty intense. Reclaiming the dark feminine, okay, the current collective Eve has not done any of this work yet, meaning in the collective, still ruled by the lower feminine impulse, materialism, pain, rage, competition, and deception. Okay, this is where we're going next, the lower side of the moon. We are seeing this play out on the world stage, the distortion of the feminine, even with the overuse of cosmetic surgery. Let me talk about this. Oh, we have so much to talk about. Everybody's getting this cosmetic surgery these days, and it's really distorting. If you look in your Instagram feed and there's stuff, and it's probably because of my age, I get sent a lot of this stuff, which is kind of funny because all the people getting it are much younger than me. It's changing the way we see people. I'm not against people need to do what they want, but this is a mass movement, especially with the elite. This is this movement happening where the elite know they're gonna live forever now. It's being talked about a lot. I heard one guy say on a podcast, "If we can make it 10 years, we'll live forever." So, what is the issue with that and living for that? More materialism, more materialism, more materialism. There's no impulse to know the divine, the real divine, and the mysteries, because the world becomes a playground. I'm here forever. I want to get myself looking good. This is going to be indefinitely. I'll be in the playing field of, you know, meeting people and using the dragon impulse. And then who can establish dominance in this new world? If people can live forever, people are thinking, who's going to be at the top of that world? And so people, you can see this mad rush for wealth in celebrity culture, among the elite. I mean, it's fast and furious, and you can that's where I feel that, the evil descending. It in fact, when I even talk about it, I can feel it a bit, and it is so misguided. When we think we have that offered to us, the values we decide upon show what our spiritual advancement is. It's unbelievable, and you start to feel sick as a woman. I would say really curate what you look at. Really curate what you look at. Anything that's selling you a quick fix to a lot of things that have to do with the feminine, there's so many influencers out there that have millions of people following, and if you watch it, here's the thing with AI that I've been shown and told. Here's the thing with AI. So with AI, um there's a lot of AI videos out there now. There's a lot of books like Carl Jung books, and they're everywhere. What people do is they go through, they use an AI voice, and they put the stuff out there. Or they have it do a complete, they plagiarize it and have it be something else. Let me talk to you about the living transmission and why the work that we do here and that I teach is so important. The human heart carries what we call the Sophia logos. The human heart carries the Sophia logos. When I'm speaking from my vessel with a heart, and when I'm using my hands, even Kabbalistically, and working with the streams of the planetary forces that work through my fingers, through my eyes, through my mouth, when I am in coherence with my mind and heart, I'm speaking. That is not the same as listening to AI or a chat GPT. Now, these things can be used for wonderful things, to assist us in certain ways, but for spiritual information, the um, the ancient schools understood this well. Everything came through the oracular tradition, through an initiate, someone had lived who had lived what they're speaking. This idea that we're just channeling all the time and we can get higher information, the potency of that information is determined by what you hold in the way of initiation. So if you're speaking about something that sounds great, the transmission is only as real as your own integration. And the problem in the world right now is that when, especially in the feminine mysteries, nobody wants to go there. It's fun to talk about, but to do it is a different thing. I'm so lucky to have been blessed with the people around me that hold this frequency and the people who come into my work, that it is the real deal. And it's people who understand their priorities. And even though none of us are perfect and we fall off and on, we know what this work is and we know how important it is. But what I'm wanting to say is that the human voice, the human logos is different than anything that comes from AI. It just is. What will happen if everything is taught, if kids are taught by just AI, if children are birthed from technology? The transmission of the heart and the transmission of the feeling center is lost. It becomes robotic. We turn human beings into robots. Now we have to come into the underworld to solve this problem and to resurrect the true feminine, which understands this is when we get into paganism, why matter is important. The earth is a mother. She is Sophia Akamoth, the goddess who descended and became the earth body, but she's operating at a very specific frequency. And it takes people that walk the earth to make contact with her and work as her vehicles above on the surface of the planet. That is really what has to happen. We are her words. We become her message and her mission. So, just one moment. We understand why real paganism, in fact, I have the book, the Essenes book on nature, which is absolutely unbelievable. I'll bring that in soon. The Essenes understood nature and understood, and the pagans did to a certain extent. We're going to talk about the fall of paganism in ancient Egypt, in Rome. We can look at Caligula, we can look at Germanicus, who became the influence for Germany and everything that happened there. We can look at ancient Egypt was big. And then we moved into Akhenaten, which became the monotheist ruler for a period and started to bring in what are the true understanding of the light and the Christ in nature. If we want to just dominate nature, which a lot of people use the Bible to say that's true, to dominate nature means to dominate our desire force. It means to bring it into alignment with the correct use of the goddess because desire comes through the feminine. The desire body is purely a feminine body. It got hijacked by fallen Mars and became war and lust. So let's just take a moment with that. When my desires are, I want war, which we see a lot right now, or I want money, I want lust. There's so much materialism in spirituality right now. Sometimes we have to get initiated and take a step back because we play the long game, in other words. Always thinking about how we're building the immortal body, and that cannot be built. This is all of what light body yoga and light body woman is based on. Light body woman is the female immortal body, which is the heart. We build that body, which is our eternal body, which is the polar opposite of eternal life with technology. They are in two different, they're exact opposite with each other. That requires very specific work, and it requires specific work of the heart and specific work with the relationship with nature. So, okay. All right. So I was going into, let me see, maybe, and then we're going to look at paganism and we're going to look at the fallen Mars. Okay, the fallen Mars force. All right. Only the resurrection of the feminine will heal the world. That's why it's in all our mythology. She is the door and the key to the kingdom of love. The female corresponds to love, the male corresponds to the mind, and she corresponds to birth and fertility. We call this the feminine energy empire. It's one of the terms that we use, feminine energy empire, and it doesn't mean it's all feminine or it's all woo woo. It means that fertility and the co-creation with God, goddess is restored. So the feminine energy empire is it's the true garden of Eden is what it is. Okay. There must be a reason I meant to keep going here. So, all right, I'm going to take a moment and then I'm going to open up this thing I had prepared for the video and just see what else we're meant to talk about. Actually, I remember there was something to read. Okay, I'll take a peek down and then, okay, I know we're going to talk about the origins of Kabbalah. We're going to talk about paganism, the underworld, and holy descent, the feminine mysteries, and the Roman Empire relationship with paganism. I already mentioned Germanicus and Caligula, and why the return of feminine. So I teach Kabbalah, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that because there's a lot of conspiracies, huge, from pure ignorance. You cannot understand something until you know it, until you interface with it, until you understand the frequencies. Now, because of what's happening in the world, and there's an association with it, with certain countries or certain religions, it's understandable that there's a discernment. Understandable what's happening right now, but we're gonna look at what the feminine Kabbalah is, what goddess Kabbalah, divine feminine Kabbalah is. It goes all the way back. Well, it goes back to the goddess womb. It's been being passed down in different iterations, and so we'll look at that. So, okay, I'll take a peek down. Oh, yeah, the AI. Thank you. Kath said, "Thank you. I'm finding the AI voice thing disconcerting." So here's the deal. Um, here's the deal. Oh, yeah, you can start to feel sick when you listen to too much of it. I'm telling you, read books, write journals, do things that have heart energy. There's a difference. Sometimes I'll use every now and then I'll go on Google and use ChatGPT if I want to look up like an astrology thing because it's pretty good at just pulling up astrology transits. And so it's kind of fun. No, I could go on software, but it's sometimes I'll come up with a crazy one and just to see what it can do. And and I can actually see, just to let you know, where it's off. It can't really compute as much as it thinks it can at times. But so certain things like that, to get it's gonna be like Google. Use it like Google. You needed to get some quick information, but listening to it for entertainment, it dampens the heart. It makes it evokes sorrow. There is a depression on our planet right now that has to do with the lack of love, the lack of young people coming together in love the way we used to. When I'm Gen X, and so there's all the Gen X memes that constantly talk about, like, how we grew up, they're all so right on. I laugh so hard for all of you who are Gen X when I see the Gen X memes because we were tough. Like, we just were independent, tough. We came out of, the 60s and 70s, and we were like, um we knew we could do it. We didn't have any resources. We didn't have technology. We had our hands, we had nature, we had what we could build, what we could get our hands on, and it was so, now we were meant to evolve, but it was such a different time before all the tech set in. We didn't have the influencers. We didn't have social media where we were looking. Okay, first of all, social media, for whatever reason, she's coming. So, what happens when we look at social media? What happens when we overuse it or we spend too much time on it? First of all, deep down in the dark feminine, there's a disappointment, and it's like any kind of addiction. We don't feel good about it. It's like eating too much sugar. It doesn't add anything to your body, your health. You can use it when you want to have a little sweet, but you're certainly not eating it for health. That's how social media should be used. It's a dessert, or it's very, let's say the French have a bite of chocolate every day or whatever it is. It's okay to have that. But this overuse of social media is the program that's coming with the fallen Mars force. It's just a constant program, and it's getting weird. I will say that. Like when it's getting strange, and people are looking distorted, and all the surgery and all the it's starting, and pretty soon all the robot stuff's going to come in. So take warning now. Okay. All right, I'm gonna read something. Oh, I wrote down the Archons do not care if woman parties and uses her dragon current or misuses her fertility or is annihilated on substances. This could go for everyone, but this was on my Divine Feminine writing. So listen to this. The Archons do not care if women, and this even has to do with feminism, parties, uses her dragon current, mi the sexual force, misuses her fertility, or if she is annihilated on substances. In fact, substances are pushed these days. They care if she remembers. They care if she wakes up. This is all human beings. Y Anything goes, but waking up, no. Remembering, no. That is what will bring on the counter forces that come after you. Goddess ritual is the complete remembering of every last aspect. We work with the 13 divine feminine potencies to create the divine feminine frequency. That is our system of Kabbalah. We're going to look at where that came from. It's cosmic, and it's an imprinting of your consciousness. It's being in that field, it's taking it in and doing that cellular work and integrating it with the heart and hearing it from a living transmission and being in the field, the actual field that helps us to remember. And remembering is a frequency, it's an energy. And it's hard to hold it in this world. There's so much coming at us. But the more you do it, you build those archetypal imprints that then begin to have a life of their own within you. It's very powerful. So the goddess descends. We're going to jump into just a tiny bit of holy descent. The goddess descends into the depth of the underworld to expose and reclaim the parts of the holy feminine that have been exploited, exiled, attacked, used, betrayed, deceived, and discarded. This is where we see those who are vulnerable losing all sovereignty and power before they even get a chance to remember. The emotional body cannot be whole until the darkness and the shadow are fully known. The crone and the dark feminine carry the wisdom of the coming age. It is those, I put female, but it's all initiates, who male and female, who have initiates who have walked through the fire of this hell, that know and carry the truth with a capital T, and the living transmission of the divine feminine through the power of their word. Again, as we talked about, the word that's been initiated is now not just words. We can sound, I know I was speaking at things before, about things before certain initiations. When they come, you're different, you're different. And you understand that, and it takes a lot of integration, a lot. But when you carry it, you are a gift to all the generations that come before you, and before you and after you. It is those initiates who have walked through the fire of this hell that know and carry the truth of the living transmission. Those things we avoid end up destroying us. They end up owning us. They drive us to our addictions, our distractions, and our projections. So, all of that, even the pain and rage of the feminine. Now, the first stage of that pain and rage is, of course, sometimes you have to break down and get it out. But that's only the very beginning. Now it's what are you going to do with it now? And that's where we get into the feminine mysteries that require real work in a real field that holds the vibration, so that that spiritual work can begin to unfold, whether it's in our life, in our sacred space, in our own life, or by studying. Okay. When we have the strength, 100% what Inanna is about, to make this journey, we transmute the substance of our own spiritual matter. We spiritualize the sexual force, the dragon current, the desire body, and the heart. What has been suppressed, reclaimed, restored, and degenerated, and regenerated. Okay, wait, I'm sorry. What has been suppressed? Period. That is what's been suppressed. That healing. You can have anything else. Now, something important to know, if you follow a religion, here's the deal with religion right now. I come from one, I have great respect. It's beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful ritual, sacraments, the whole thing. But I'm going to tell you what I have received directly from what we call the motherhood of light. These male-led teachings and institutions, although hold great truth, are a smaller energetic container. Meaning, and it's interesting, a lot of women that have been coming to my work lately, it's been interesting to hear this. When you step inside that, you are under. You're under, you're bound by that law. And what that means is that the power for the true goddess to awaken is limited. It still holds the archetypes, but there is it's just a smaller container. Now, let me see how I can balance what I just said. Community, prayer, gathering, scripture, events like baptisms, and I went through baptism, confession, confirmation, all of them. They are in fact, I just found my 8th grade confirmation picture. I might post it. So funny. All the girls in my 8th grade, we all took a picture, in Catholic school. These are like events to celebrate, and they bring a lot of feminine heart energy. So community and gathering is amazing. Nobody should leave that if you're part of that. There's times, obviously, we all need that. I saw a video. I'm jumping around a lot today because I haven't been here in a while. So many things are popping in. I saw a video. This was on one of the platforms, and it was a woman on the left saying it was really funny. But take note, it was a woman on the left, a left influencer saying, the right has God. They have their religion. They gather in the name of a certain thing and it brings them all together. Else did she say? There was 2 things she said. The right has this. She was a left-wing of leftist, and she said, "What do we have? We don't have anything. We need to get anything. We need to get something that binds us energetically and makes us get force as a group." Because what was built up, it had holes in it, and it never built up as strong for a reason. But this is the truth about when people come together and have a belief system, it gives you something to unite with, and it's one reason why obviously everyone can have their own beliefs. In this kingdom, we allow everyone to go through their own process. It's never about conking anyone over the head and saying you have to have this, but you secularism has destroyed the divine feminine impulse. I will say that again. Secularism, especially in feminism, has destroyed the divine feminine impulse and replaced it with a false feminine power. Now, I'm talking about very specific things that happened. Women, because the right misuses that, would the right, I want to be really clear, the right would misuse that statement. I've read books that were written by people on the right, like evangelical and apocalyptic people who claim that feminism was evil, it was the devil, it was Lucifer. We don't mean that. No, 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 because a lot of the esotericists were feminists in the beginning, meaning they were talking about diet, they were talking about treating animals well, they were talking about the importance of women voting, they were talking about the equality when a man and a woman are married, they were talking about a woman being able to have her own space or run her own work. These are the good things about all of that. But this brazen attack on the female reproductive system, on the beauty of coming together with another human being to have a child and to raise a family. That's not the truth. That is not patriarchy. It's not patriarchy. That is the divine goddess herself that has granted us containers of deep love that goes through, listen carefully, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Specific initiations, and we have to pass through all of them eventually in different lifetimes. This initiation requires love throughout a lifetime that grows through the spiritual vibration. Marriage is actually an archetype of the mirror of the supernal mother and the supernal father, and giving birth. When we teach goddess ritual, it's so powerful how this comes in, is a divine right, and it's such pure power. So, there's a lack of understanding on the left, and it's one of the reasons I had to kind of move away. I could just say I don't identify with that at all, and it got so bad that, there was a time when even me having my site, Art of the Feminine, went through a period where I couldn't believe what was happening, and often by women who have been programmed. That's why I just wanna be so clear, step back from all of it. If you have, a beautiful experience that you get in religion, that's amazing, and some people need to go into that just to learn part of the mysteries that are held there, but pay attention to your voice. And there's me, I could never because I'm in touch with a higher version of that energy, and so that it trumps the lower version. It just does. It doesn't mean, as we say often, we don't fight against it. We're not trying to take anything down. We are, regenerating it. But the powers coming in right now do not want that regeneration. In fact, I'm gonna speak of someone I saw on a podcast. This was, I don't watch too many of the guy podcasts like I used to. There was a period like in 2017 and 18, but I saw I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna say it was Mel Gibson, and I have nothing against any of these people. He was on Joe Rogan. I believe this was it. And I saw a clip, and he was talking about how the Pope this was back when Francis was still in, was demonic because he had a group of indigenous people from South America that were doing a Pachamama ritual to the Earth Mother, the Earth Goddess, in the presence of Pope Francis. And so he was saying, I see these kinds of things all the time. I'm not even trying to signal out this person or either of these two. Everyone is a source right now, so there's no judgment, but this is how the conversation went. He said it's purely satanic. The Pope is preaching Satanism because the far right people within this religion, this is how it goes, we're totally against Francis and even the new guy. So so all these millions and millions of people that are listening to this podcast, and Joe Rogan was like, "Oh, wow, that's bad." Like as if they're praying to some demon. What those people hold is the ancient pagan wisdom that the earth is a mother and is actually the projection of the supernal mother. And that when we understand how to honor the earth, she gives us the wisdom codes for this world. She has a very specific role to play. She teaches us about in the Garden of Eden, and we are in a fallen Eden right now, but first of all, the earth and heart are an anagram of each other, and they both contain the solar feminine at the very nucleus. And so to have this view of it is the highest ignorance that any human being could carry. And that's why I've been speaking a lot about how that is not Christianity. Well, first of all, it's Christianity without the goddess. It's Christianity without Magdalene. Now I'm going to say something very powerful. There's a Botticelli painting. It's I think it's the birth of spring. I'm carrying so many things at the moment, so I might get the name wrong. There's the woman that's pregnant in that painting, and I have that painting that I got from the Uffizi along with my Venus. You see the mother, and I'm gonna look it up right now. Just a second. Spring, I think it is. Primavera. It's primavera in Italian, which means spring. Primavera, okay, which is a time of the goddess. So, okay, I just opened this folder. I hope everything's going well with the tech. So, in that painting, the female character who's at the very center is a mother, and on her arms are scales. Now, I don't know anything. I'm not an art history major or anything like that, but I have this hanging in where I meditate. And these two paintings have been with me for a very specific reason, my entire journey. The scales on her arms, well, she's carrying a child. And then there's other things happening. There's the three graces, and then there's the virgin, there's the dark shadow forces. This is my own, what was given. It's not from an art history book or anything like that. These days, some of those can be distorted. So, has animal skins on her. Now, this is what we know here. The mother is part divine and holds part of the animal kingdom, the feminine. Because in order to give birth, you have to engage in the carnal force of conception, of copulation, to receive the spermatoza and there's many, many other teachings and knowledge around that act as well. of conceiving a child that are not used right now. Yes, you can look at tantra and things like this, but this is being replaced fast and furiously. And also, I just want to say one thing, the overall collective fertility of Eve, it's no mistake what's happening, and of Adam. So just one moment. I want to see if I should say anything else about that. It's being replaced. And so, as women, it's a very sensitive conversation because so many people right now are not able to conceive on their own. But that is what the direction we're going as a result of secularism, meaning the loss of the divine feminine. When we get so robotic and technical, we hand our fertility over that as well. And it's been the generation that's being hit with it hard right now, the millennials come in. You can look astrologically and see what each soul group is carrying. So those lessons, I want to be really clear, are meant to be carried. There's no judgment. It's the times that we're in. But the times we're going in are a different direction. We are reclaiming the spiritual process. My entire life's work and experience have been about this. It's very rare at this time, but we are bringing back in the true understanding of the female polarity and her connection to both the Lilith and Eve. That woman is part animal because in her act of conception, she purifies that force. That's one reason that we often, not often, but we talk about the Virgin Mary in religion, which is a complete denial of the Magdalene archetype when it's not understood along with her. And when Magdalene isn't understood as co-equal, as the goddess Sophia coming in, the Sophia Akhmath, to be in the earth, to raise that up, to purify it, the seven churches, and she carries the female ascension codes. It is the ascension codes. This has to be understood so that we can begin to heal. It's happening. But once it's handed over, that's a new timeline for humanity that will never come back. Just one moment. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, you saw the podcast? Yeah, Kathy had just said she saw the podcast, and thank you for sharing. I love, by the way, your grandmother, I know she rocks. She has a serious connection. You told me, I think that she was like teaching about Magdalene back then. Which by the way, when I was a little girl too, it was already in me at like, I've talked about it before. I won't go there right now, but her voice was there. I knew it. I didn't know why, but I knew it. So, okay, and what I wanna say about that podcast, I've watched that podcast many times for other things, and this is an age where condemning is actually just not smart because you never know where wisdom is gonna show up, and, I was meant to see that because now I understand just how deep the sort of certain aspect now, some of these people are also seen as heroes when it comes to certain things, like, around, I'm not gonna go there today. That's for another talk. But so there are good things coming out and common sense coming out, but this is where we need to go. It's the feminine spirituality. If everything else around it happens, but that bullseye doesn't happen, it's on the wheel. It's another recycle of Atlantis with the technology, the fall of the tech, the destroying ourselves, the destroying of the feminine, which I have a personal background. I talk about it. I think I had this series where I did called the Esoteric Feminine Codes, and unfortunately, it's not lit or mic'd very well. But and I think that was seriously the dark forces pushing on me so hard not to speak some of those words. If you go back, it's a playlist at Art of the Feminine, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and please give the video a like. Um, those videos, I talk about, oh, just one moment. I'm gonna have to wait for that to come back to me, how quick that just was snatched. Okay, just one moment. So we were talking about the feminine, the video. So I'll start to say I talked a lot about my journey with conception. There was one other thing, and it was important. Okay, it's going to come back. Um, oh, oh, okay. Fan the heart, keep it going, keep the field going. It's the feminine mysteries. Okay, we were going down that path. It's understanding that how this was suppressed and how this was hidden. And so anything else can be out there, but that is the Holy Grail. And that is, it can be commercialized and put on commodified, but when the real frequency is coming from a real feminine initiate linked to this change, it changes the planet. Now, I think I was, oh, yes, it came back. I was talking about Atlantis. Wow. Okay, feminine spirituality. Yes, go Brenda. Nice. Down there in Mexico, I think still. So oh wow, that just is really really pulling right now and wanting to go away. So, I talked about a lifetime in Atlantis. Now, I'm saying this purely for um archetypal download right now. This is not something that you have to subscribe to, but very early in my path, before I even was out in the world teaching, and I wasn't even into this like Atlantis stuff back then. I didn't know that much. I knew about it, but I hadn't. It was when I very first entered the Akashic record, and I was shown a a life in Atlantis at the very end. It was at the very end. And I'll share this today because it's beautiful. Because the realizations that are coming, I even got the name after I got out of the session. It just came over me for like 24 hours. I wrote down the names without even thinking or anything. I did zero research. I knew nothing about it. The names, when I looked up the meaning and understood what they were and their connect, it was crazy. I was in a male vessel at that time. I had had other female, but this particular one was the inner circle of the high priests that were working to save the planet in the very end. This is so crazy. But the my counterpart was in female form at that time. And she was coming needing to work side by side at that time. And it was not allowed for what we were doing. I swear, I feel like I'm just gonna lose it right now and start crying. It's what's happening in the world right now, and it's part of been my journey right from that day forward was completely to go back through the feminine stream and come down as the pure feminine, which I was shown exactly on the tree of life, even how I came in this particular this well, for a long time now, from so we've been the mother stream for a long time, and that group of priests were also part of the mother, but in masculine bodies. And they were working against the fallen forces because it was coming to the end. But it was the feminine that had been pushed out because the stakes were so high and they knew it. And they were isolated. They worked in solitude, these groups. And that's what we're healing right now. And so my entire path is about that because if we do that again, it's over. Again, they were advanced in technology, advanced in awe was the goal, and everything was beautiful. It was like a golden age, but not understanding the full capacity of Eve, even a female body, and the power of love. Even though they had it in certain ways, I mean, Atlantis was also it fell in the masculine vibration. It was meant to advance technology and all of the and building and all of those things. But, yeah, and I had volunteered to go that route. It's hard to talk about. Okay. Hannah, mine too, been under such extreme heavy attack. We've been there. Oh, maybe we've been there. I have a key from back then. It's inside. Oh, I love it. Okay. Oh, yes, my grandmother. Oh, Mary Mag, that's amazing. I hear stories like this a lot. We're here, we're alive, and there's male forms that carry it too. I mean, my son has it. It's like, so just know that. I want to be really positive. It's the feminine spirituality, and that's why we're here. It's so important. You can have everything else, but we have not received that yet. And the initiations in the feminine are brutal because she works with the dark. We do these in Goddess Ritual Holy Descent. Um, it's coming up, and there's a link to that course right under the video. I can't even begin to tell you what we do in that work. I mean, I'll be talking more about it in the coming couple weeks, but we're starting on November 7th. We do that path. We do it, and we go into it, and we get face to face with all of it, and we also get face to face with our true divinity before we even enter. We work at the very highest land, the divine feminine kingdom, before we incarnate, and we receive everything in our original state to understand where we're going and knowing that we're going to forget it once we get there. It is mind blowing, just to let you know. Okay, let me see where I left off. Well, okay. Okay. So we have to become reclaimed. We reclaim it. We are restored and regenerated. The lower levels are where the lead is turned to gold. So the lower underworld levels, we have to go there. They are the realms of sophionic power and strength. What has been locked away in the underworld of our consciousness is the gift we have been looking for to activate divine love on this planet. Now, and this is distinctly connected to the feminine. This can be the great, it's the dark, and it's the lower lunar realms as well. This can be the greatest challenge that we have ever known, to look into that. It's only when we look that we can discern and discriminate the wheat from the chaff, making matter conscious. Holy matter, as we call it. We are reclaiming holy matter as the pure vehicle of the soul and spirit. The soul being the water principle, the spirit being the fire, but there's also the glorified soul, which holds the immortal body, houses the immortal body. This is the work of Libra. I was talking about Libra. Okay, only, yes, Libra is a powerful. Only by acknowledging our darkness do we understand our light. A human being infuses heart and soul into all that they do. And that's why we talk about the hands, touch. This is why relationships that are on social media or on apps and where you're hiding behind a screen, they can only go so far. And it's really hurting relationships in 3D when people don't talk in person or talk when they're only writing. That frequency is not good. That our through eye contact and our hands, we transmit the divine feminine. We can't erase that. To think people are going to be walking around wearing goggles to what? Learn history? No, 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 no. You reclaim um the entire cosmos is within you. Our body, we hold in divine feminine astrology, the entire cosmos is within us. We explore the inner realms not with goggles, with inner vision. And that's the perception of the divine feminine. Okay, so what we're going to look at right now. Okay, wait, there's one more. Perfection and false wisdom cannot replace the wisdom of Sophia, regardless of how seductive and grandiose the promises made are for everlasting life on the physical plane. The war for the soul is real, and the divine feminine wisdom is the only thing that can save us, because it is the key to the brain that is hidden in the heart. The divine feminine wisdom is the key to the brain that is hidden in the heart. We have a brain in our heart with 40,000 cells. This is part of the jewel of the divine feminine. The real brain is in our heart. And what's not yet known globally is that these initiations are what awaken that jewel of the heart. It requires initiation to get full power. That we call it the light body prism. The heart is a prism. It's the creative imagination, and it's so big. It's so we go into all of it. Okay. Um, Without the proper force guiding us, all looks like progress. Without the proper force guiding us, all looks like progress. The key to the heart is held in the heart of the mother. The great question is who and what will guide us forward? What knowledge is true knowledge for the soul and spirit? It starts with our connection to the divine. Without this, we begin to degenerate and destroy the ladder to Eve's tree of life. What happens when questioning AI? Okay, I wrote this down. What happens when questioning AI and technology becomes illegal? Because the powers that are in charge of it are so we've never seen oligarchical powers like we have now. We in and this is why there's such a bold and brazen movement forward right now. The people behind it know it's coming. They know they don't care about cultural norms or playing politics anymore. It doesn't matter. In fact, I want to say something. This is about the current president. And again, we don't get political. I'm not doing this is no kind of attack on him personally or what's going on. I keep any of that off this platform because we look at both sides from the heart. I saw an interview yesterday with one of his main guys saying they're keeping him in for a third term. Okay, let's just talk about that. This is the top person in that movement saying, "Look, this guy's here by divine providence and he's got to stay and we're keeping him in." So let's just take a breath with that. What does that mean? Again, we never had the derangement syndrome here. We're not about that. But we look closely and we definitely know the frequency. Definitely. Our wisdom is real. And we are the mothers of all the humans on this planet. So we look at them as our children that are needing to advance a bit more. But what that means is that we're in territory we've never been in before. So this is looking at the West because the US wants to be a superpower where I live and they want to be backed by tech. And so these people are looking into the future and saying and also thinking they're gonna live forever. So just think about that. Okay, we're gonna live forever. We better start playing the power game, which there's some truth to that. But that is a complete annihilation of what the US was founded under, the Constitution. And nowadays, there's so much power with these men in charge that there's no need to consult with anybody. It's just, I'll do what I'm gonna do. It's if you think that's happening now, we have seen nothing yet. Once the full surveillance system is in place, it's all bets off. I don't know if people really understand how fast that's coming in. Everywhere you go is like, I mean, already look at all the cameras around me. It's already there, but we're moving into something that we can't even conceive of. It's in all our mythology, and we need to not go into fear. We need to, when we can, show up and put the voice of wisdom into the conversation. Some of these people would happily begin to shift, but the peer pressure and everything is getting greater and greater, and the momentum is almost unstoppable. This is the return of the Atlantean-Roman Empire. Let's look at paganism in just one moment. So what we have going on right now, I'm going to look at the archetypes. One of the questions I got, which we'll do a Q&A soon, was asking, how are these archetypes of 2025? If you haven't seen the very first Holy Womanhood podcast, Archetypes, the most important archetypes of 2025, we talk about 18. We talk about Lilith, the transit of the North Node in Pisces. It's still there. I think it's at 17 degrees of Pisces. We just had the Pisces and Virgo eclipses, which are on that axis, which brought in, okay, those eclipses brought in what happened in September, 100%. We said at the beginning of 2025, the Virgo Pisces axis was bringing in a kind of distortion, loss of consciousness. The harmful forces come in and take charge. 18 is Lilith, it's the dark moon. It reduces to 9, which is Mars. With this whole energy vibration of 2025, everything that's happening right now is absolutely this archetypal vibration. It is pure, the degenerated feminine with the emboldened power of the masculine. Now, this is not against a military, not against having order, not against even borders, none of that. Not against respecting religions because there's two agendas. Oh, I'm going to do a conspiracy video one day and break down what we know about every big conspiracy, but this is the truth. And I could lecture for 3 hours on this. So, there are two plans. One plan was to break down religion, remove all identity, really strongly attack gender in certain ways, and um, remove the rights to have to own things and run things and to kind of I have all the literature, the genuine original literature of where these movements came from, and it's scary. It is so scary because these were dropped into the feminist movements, which were engineered. So I'm looking at the left right now. That's all you on the liberals. I've been in this category myself. Some of the work informing it comes from breaking these things down in the name of rights. It's pure secularism being run at the lowest level. There is a code of laws. If you play a sport, there are rules. If you build a skyscraper, there is a blueprint. If you mess up the blueprint, the skyscraper will not stand. If there's no foundation, if there's something went wrong, that thing will come down. We've seen it. We've seen it. Buildings come down in fires that weren't supposed to because of that. If you go out on a playing field in professional sports and you don't know the rules, you're worthless. If you're working on a scientific experiment and you're not you being meticulous, so the human culture also has the laws of nature and the laws that govern us. And it doesn't mean we can't experiment. This is not an attack on anyone that falls outside of, any certain thing, but there has to be understood. It's wisdom to understand the blueprint. So there was that attempt is to break that down. There's more. Um, It's also very anti-capitalist. So, which is we everybody knows that communism at its very worst is a living hell. And it's not what's happening in certain countries right now isn't that level of it. It's actually combined with capitalism, which is what this new system wants. The new system, and we'll look at the right in just a minute, wants some of that, but they want the technocratic full control. So it's a blend. The new system is a blend of both of them, and both sides want it. It's just who's going to get power. The right, okay, we were talking about the left. Oh, the right agenda is this. The right agenda is we'd rather have a dictator or go back to a royal family, but really a corporate dictator. We've talked about that. We talked about Peter Thiel. We talked about Curtis Yarvin, who is the philosopher for the right, the new kind of right, and is it called the neoliberalism, where and a lot of the church fathers and religions are behind this too. They believe that a liberalism went too far. It's destroyed things. And there also is the conspiracy that this side wants to destroy religion. This is important to understand because there's truth in that. This is why this battle is crazy. This side does want to take out religion. They don't, and there's reasons for it. Not the good reasons, but the other reasons. We can't get into it today. So this side, the right, is saying, "Hey, wait a minute. Why are you attacking our churches, our belief system? You know, we were founded in the US on this," which the US was actually founded by Freemasons, not a very different, which is more of an esoteric kind of Christianity. But, you know, we do have the recognition of the divine in our music, in our songs, our anthems, our prayers, our all of it. And that was coming from a good place. It really was. You don't wanna take that out. Human beings as a whole are meant to understand their connection with something greater than our body of flesh and the carnal desires and the wars and the appetites that we have here. We are so much bigger. And so anything that takes that out, no. And what you see on the left right now is a lot of inversion. We talk about that in all the entertainment industries that goes way too far. It's being pushed on purpose. And that is being pushed on purpose to try to to try to um influence the kids on this side. It's all about the kids, the children and the youth. So this side fights back and says, "No, we're gonna go stronger." And the right is moving in momentum. So we're looking at these two polarities. The right has more right now of the return of the Atlantean-Roman Empire. So they believe in full technocratic control and want to get rid of all the left stuff. That we talked about how the Peter Thiel, Elon Musk conversation about woke and have he's like, "Why don't you just go to Mars to get away from it?" And he's like, "I think Elon Musk is afraid it will follow him there." They really are opposed to that. There are all kinds of things that need to be discussed in a real way right now, not from a political standpoint, because the politics, this is the most important thing, is always made, always, always made to drown out the voice of the mother. It doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. The ultimate agenda, energetically from the Archons and the fallen entities, is to drown out the return of the divine feminine for the age of Sophia. This lower world is programmed against that. And so what you get on the right now is wanting to take away the voice of the people and just have everybody handled. But there's an elite class, but there is this plan to use religion in a way that is not aligned. We're not against religion. And so they sell it to that side by saying, "Look what they're doing." Like, look what they're and there's a lot of truth to that, meaning and there's also a lot of truth to understanding now is the time to go really deep with your understanding of what we would call the Christ force, the Christ Sophia, the feminine Christ. It's important to have the father and the mother. I just saw something recently where when you pray to the Father, which the Our Father is a wonderful prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. The name of God is the Logos. Hallowed be the Logos. And it carries the frequency of pure light and power. It's important that we have pray to the Father. Even though we teach the divine feminine, we're not about saying, we're not about saying that we only pray to the not at all. The heart needs the Father. There were psychological experiments done. I can't quote this. I'm going to go back and look and see if I could find it. That when you pray to a Father God, something happens within you where you let down and you trust. Just think of that. Because you feel held by the divine masculine. Praying to the Father is really healing, especially for a lot of women or people in a male body who did not get that in the proper way, but still to all, even to men as guidance, just to have that father imprint. Praying to so I want to say there when I know when I pray to the Father, I'm in a different vibration where I feel like I can let all my stuff go and just be like, I love it. So and then when I do like a Hail Mary or something like that, it completely lights up my entire wisdom school. So, all right. So these are okay. So the right also. So be careful of that. Be careful of we're gonna have to be careful of what's it called? I mean, the way the military forces are used, which is gonna take us into Rome. Let's look at the Roman Empire. There is a strong patriarchal buildup of the military. Now, I know some of you have sons and daughters in the military. My father was in the military. We have absolute respect for those people who take part in this, and we need them to be present right now for many reasons. The world is really going into a different kind of space at this time. So in Rome, I believe it's the General Germanicus, which there was a certain training of the military. And Rome was feared for their military. I'm not talking to you this in any way, kind of academic or scholarly way at this time. I'm just pulling what's coming in. There was a very, but I've read a lot about it. There's a specific kind of training at a certain point that made the soldiers anti feminine. It was a kind of training that was designed to weed out any heart compassion or wisdom around the value of life and the beauty of a mother, a woman, or a child. It's so dark. When I read about this, this was a few years ago. The those That training was revered and coveted in World War II with the particular situation that we had in Germany. That training of that field was done in that style and anchored in a kind of evil. There's all kinds of conspiracies around World War II. We're not going to get in that. We're looking at it archetypally right now. And it was so brutal. Some of the things I can't talk about here in this video because they even trained on certain ways the soldiers to not be attracted to females and to take a different route. However, which was masculine. It was not I think I have to leave it at there for now. So what happens then, and there's also when you go into a village or you go into a country and you win the war and you take the women and children, what you do, and even what has happened in our world right now, what takes place in war. Did a paper on this in college, and it was just I think it was Bosnia. I was reporting on way back when I was in school, what was happening in Bosnia and the culture around the abuse of women when soldiers go in. So this is what we are talking about. When we say that Mars fell, Mars is passion, desire. It's the flame of the dragon current. It's the power to be royal and to lead and to guide and to have strong vision in the mind, the male mind. It fell into lust. And lust and war are on the same dimension with each other. Lust is war, and war is lust. You think of blood rituals and even we'll talk about paganism and some of the old forms of sacrifice because that's part of it too. Is that we distorted the power of the heart and turned it into carnal cravings that don't go through the maiden, mother, and crone, that leave the collective Eve so angry, depressed, that she sells herself out to the program that's being pushed. This is what we see in social media, what we see this whole dating thing that's happening right now where women are really I know I work with a lot of women trying to date. There's certain ways it's working out for certain groups. There's certain groups that are kind of protected and are still marrying and having success, but there's a whole field of women, and it's mostly women that are constantly on social media that have been completely overtaken with this rage and this anger about, not being chosen or not finding love. And I've watched a lot of the women over the years going through that go into the stage of being so angry that they forget about it. They're done. And they mute that part of their heart. It's a real phenomenon that's happening. It's happening with men too. So what happens is when we live in this vibration for so long, so as you see, when we're talking about balancing the masculine and feminine, we're not talking about the feminine being in control. We are acknowledging that the feminine frequency has been way, way off, especially with some of the ideologies that were brought in, just not aligned with wisdom. And yet, that feminine still does carry that wound of the mother, the sorrow of the heart, the broken heart, the lost love, the being traded in, the being discarded, the being abandoned, rejected, betrayed. That is held deep. That's why we reclaim the dark feminine. Because every time that gets darker and darker and darker, the dark feminine can only be used. That's when we really do talk about satanic purposes or demonic purposes. It becomes the shadow body of Lilith that is furious. And so she says, okay, can't beat him, join him. And she's like, I will beat you at your game. And she does. In the end, the goddess takes all. And so I always point to that scene in not House of Dragon, but Game of Thrones at the end when Khaleesi is like she destroys the whole kingdom on her dragons. That is the archetype of Lilith saying, if I don't get it, neither will you. And I can bring that is the archetype of the fallen feminine, but that carries that rage, and that's why it's so important that we reclaim it, that we reclaim the crone. The crone is the aged feminine, the ancient feminine that carries the wisdom of remembering. And that is why she is so feared. She lives in the subconscious mind where everything's been buried. And when she speaks to us and in this work, she helps us, she teaches us to remember. And so, um, I'll speak to her in just a moment. So I said, oh, paganism. So let's just finish on the idea of paganism and Kabbalah. So paganism in this world was really at its peak in ancient Egypt. And it was so carnal. It became what happened. Well, I don't want to say just paganism. What happened was the wisdom, some of the ancient priests and initiates and rulers out of Egypt had access to the higher wisdom, which would be the esoteric system that was given, that had traveled through various lineages. At a certain point, they fell and they began to misuse those forces, and it was a complete annihilation of all integrity around life, around the current, around the mother, around human life, around animals. And those forces began to scorch the earth. This was huge. Now, I'm not gonna give the timeline right now, but there were different, when Akhenaten came in, I don't remember the one from before him. I have it written down. When Akhenaten came in, this was the first to access and regenerate the wisdom of the sun, and began to and there was a fight where all the old temples were taken down. There was a war. The same war happened and repeated itself in Rome in the 4th century. In order to erect this new religion or this new belief system in Egypt and bring in the religion of the sun, the solar force, there was a war and a lot of temples and the the multi-god, the plural god system was taken down. And for a moment in time, the Christ force came in and monotheism was anchored into the world. And the wisdom was brought back into that alignment. So this is where I'm combining the talk about Kabbalah and paganism. This is where also Kabbalah was passed down from civilizations before of old Atlantis going way back. And it was carried through Egypt. So it was that wisdom that was misused in Egypt. It's the understanding of all the forces of nature. It's the magic, the magicians, the understanding of the forces, the feminine force, the Shakti of the goddess, and it was misused. And it went scorched earth. And so there was a realignment that came in. Now, so what I want to say about the Kabbalah, which is part of the esoteric system, it's a we have the feminine Kabbalah. Kabbalah has been since the beginning of time. It's the understanding of the cosmic. It's the understanding of the stream of the forces from the higher realms into the world of form. And it's the understanding of the forces that make up the human vessel. It's everything. It's all the plant kingdom, all the animal kingdom, the mineral kingdom. It's sound and light. It's all the colors, all the sounds of the musicians, of the music of the spheres. And so it holds it's the book of life. It is the book of life. And so it went then, and now it's transmitted all over the planet. There was a period when the Israelites or the Hebrew were held captive in Egypt for a long period. And where Kabbalah was received and blended with, which is how the wisdom works. With each iteration, it receives the next evolution of its revelation. So this was a monotheistic culture and religion that was prepared, that was a messianic religion to bring forth the news that savior would come. So we're just looking at what that was. And on the mystical side, this wisdom was integrated. And so that's why, and even saying Kabbalah comes from that lineage. And that served and has served the planet in all of the esoteric systems. In the Western esoteric system, any real system comes out of the system. Now, I'm addressing this because of what's happening on the planet, because everything is amping up. I want to say there are conspiracies about it that are completely misunderstood about how many spheres, this and that, who misused it. It's been misused because it's a system of magic. And it's even, I'm going to finish with this, but it's understood by ruling entities and nations at the highest level. There's always been magicians. We have the famous, most, infamous Aleister Crowley. Some of the conspiracies about him are true because he fell into lust. And so he was what I want to talk about, the church propaganda. What happened was there was this war between monotheism and those who were bringing in the mysteries. And so they had a constant propaganda war. I'm saying all of this to speak about the Kabbalah and why there's so much lack of true wisdom around it. First of all, the church was always out to get those who were holding it because they were the religion that the Christ teachings arose out of, Judaism, which is the Hebrews, the Israelites, but it was a competition. And so there was constantly propaganda, and this entity that became Rome and the church wanted to take it out, and did take out all the esoteric streams around the planet. Like that's when we hear about, Friday the 13th and all of these horrific wars that went in and just slaughtered the Essenes and the Gnostics that went on and on and on, the Inquisition. So there were other things happening too, but they were aware that a lot of those sects were the blend of Christ teachings with the mysticism. They go